Now, still quickly have one more area of music to talk about. I introduced that one like this. I'm going to produce two musical things right now. See if you can tell me if these two things are the same pitch. Ready? Here we go. Now, I was singing a note and I was playing a note on the piano. Were those two things the same pitch? What do you think? Well, the answer is yes, they were. That means in terms of their highness and lowness, they both occupied the same plane, which was pretty much like a medium-low kind of plane. So those two notes were the same pitch, right? However, in the totality of the experience of listening to those two things, they didn't sound exactly alike, did they? Even with your eyes closed, you'd be able to tell, oh, that's a piano, and that's a human voice. So even though these two things were alike in pitch, they were different in something else. And what might we call that other thing? Well, we could just say that they sounded different. They had a different sound quality. They were both the same highness and lowness. They were both the same pitch, but they just sounded different. They had a different sound quality, shall we say. Even though they were the same pitch, they just sounded different. A piano sounds like a piano. A human voice sounds like a human voice. The best, I think, over-the-counter word for this is the word tone. Although tone is a little bit of a confusing word in the musical language sometimes, because tone is sometimes used to talk about pitch. We won't get into that right now. But, for example, you have a tone knob on your electric guitar. Ask yourself this question. When you turn the tone knob on that guitar, or how about the tone knob on your stereo at home or in your car? When you turn the tone knob, are you changing the highness and lowness of the pitches that the musicians are playing? And the answer is no, you're not. You're just changing something about how their sound quality actually is. So concepts like EQ, equalization, tone controls on your instrument. The word instruments belongs in here. What, after all, is the difference between a saxophone and a trumpet? Do saxophones and trumpets play different notes? No. In fact, you might as well sort of look at it like all the instruments, at least in the Western world, all basically play the same notes. They're all typewriters, and they all have the same alphabet on the keyboard. So what is the difference between a saxophone and a trumpet? They just sound different. You can always tell when you're hearing a saxophone. You can always hear when you're hearing a trumpet. What's the difference between an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar? They play the same notes. You play them the same way. They just sound different. You can always tell when you're hearing an electric guitar. You can always tell when you're playing an acoustic guitar. If you're playing an electric guitar, what's very important for a lot of players is the whole concept of effects. You probably know that there are all these electronic effects that you can put on your guitar. Of course, the most audible or visible one, of course, these days is the whole subject of distortion. You probably all know the sound that a guitar makes. You know, right now, I even have a little bit of effects on my guitar right now. A little bit of stereo chorusing and stuff like that. But you're probably all familiar with distortion. That's when you get this sound out of the instrument. That's that overdriven kind of distortion sound that we associate with rock and roll. And the truth of the matter is, not only do you have to worry about what notes you're going to play, you also have to worry about the quality of sound you produce. You have to have a decent instrument. You have to have a decent amplifier. You have to have the right types of effects. If you show up at the heavy metal band rehearsal with your acoustic guitar, you're probably not going to last too long. You need to be able to generate whatever sound that they ask you to play. So, the official musical term, by the way, is another one of those ones that you might not have heard before. It's the whole concept of timbre, spelled B-R-E, timbre. Have you ever heard that word before? You might have, and just didn't know what it was. Oftentimes you'll hear it pronounced also timbre, T-A-M-B-R-E. when you hear that word, you know that they're actually talking about not the pitch of the highness and lowness of the notes you're playing. It's actually the actual quality of sound you're producing. Should I play this on an electric guitar? Should I play it on an acoustic guitar? You should change your strings on your guitar every month or two because they just get corroded and they just don't sound very good. Many of you who haven't changed your strings in months and months and months have simply forgotten how much better your guitar sounded when you initially put the strings on, because they gradually lose their tone over time, and you didn't even necessarily know it. Before you change your strings next time, if your strings have been on for a while, play the guitar for a few minutes before you change them and try to remember what it sounded like. Then change your strings, and you'll go, oh my God, what a difference. And because lots of times it happens so slowly we don't notice it. So, our last question that we have to ask ourselves at the end of the song is on Timbre here. It's, of course, how did I sound? And that's a totally different question than did I play the right notes? How did I sound? Did I play the right notes? These are two completely different questions, and a lot of times people have just never been able to really make that distinction for themselves. So, there you go, 6 main areas of music. That's all there is to it. For you to be a real musician, for you to be a real player, there's only 2 things you got to do. You got to get to the end of the song, and you got to be able to answer yes to those 6 questions over there. If you do, they'll be clapping and throwing money at you in no time. If you don't, they're going to kick you out of the band and get somebody who can. And it's not a big deal, is it? All you should really try to do is spend a little time trying to remember, trying to memorize these 6 different concepts. If you were one of my students here in person, when you came back next week, one of the first things I would do, and I'm not a real high-pressure guy, but we would just have to go back over it again, I suppose, would be, okay, you tell me, what are the 6 main areas of music? Give me the official musical term. Give me like a one-word kind of descriptive term that, to make sure that you understand what the concept is. And then possibly most importantly, tell me what that question is that you have to ask yourself at the end of the song. Really, that's all there is to it. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, now we'll just take a minute and set you up for our next lesson. It'll be lesson number 2, and you'll want to look at your in your booklet there, and you'll be looking at sheet number 2 next time. What next time is going to be about is all about pitch. As I say, that's the largest area of music, and a lot of facts to learn about it, but as I said before, the good news is it's absolutely fascinating. And how is that? Pretty good, huh? Wasn't exactly what you were expecting. You thought I was just going to plop that guitar in your lap and start showing you how to move your fingers, but trust me, that would have been just pretty much pointless. And other cool thing is, did you have any trouble understanding anything I said today? I mean, isn't this pretty much like common sense? Really? You know, is there anything terribly difficult here? No. And the good news is, it doesn't get any harder than this. If you understood what I was talking about today, you're going to understand everything that I'm talking about.
Hi, I'm Scotty West, creator of the Absolutely Understand Guitar Video Home Study Program. Hey, thanks for all the positive feedback on our video guitar lessons. We're now uploading new lessons right from our DVD home study program. Each lesson is 70 minutes long, but we've chopped them up into 10-minute chapters to fit on YouTube, so each lesson will have 7 chapters. It's critical that you watch these chapters in order. Make sure you start with Lesson 1, Chapter 1, then move to Lesson 1, Chapter 2, etc. When you've finished all the chapters for Lesson 1, then move on to Lesson 2. Hey, some of this stuff you might already know, and some of it's a little dry. You're going to wonder, do I really need to know this stuff? The answer is yes. Each one of these chapters contains little gems of information that nobody's told you yet, and these are the missing pieces that are preventing you from seeing the big picture. Don't cheat yourself out of these valuable realizations. Stick with the program. Also, consider our complete DVD home study program. Our high-resolution DVD video is much better than these fuzzy little YouTube clips, and you'll also get all our cool printed material, too. So good luck with your music and enjoy the lessons.